All right, everyone, welcome to part 2 of our unit on Utah habitats. We talked last time about what a habitat is, and the first habitat we talked about were wetlands. So a couple more things about wetlands. This would be considered a wetland because, as you can see, beaver has made a dam and a lodge underneath where it can live. This stops the water and makes everywhere around it a wetland area. So the beaver is unique in that it makes its own habitat. No other animal does that. All right, some other wetland animals include muskrats. Muskrats use the cattails for food and for building lodges. Moose feed on the wetland plants, and they grow a thicker coat of fur before winter to survive the cold winter elevations. I need to move my picture so you can see that one. Another wetland animal is the tiger salamander. They live in moist areas around streams, and they burrow underneath the ground to escape the extreme temperatures in summer and winter. Also, many different frogs and birds live in wetlands, like the blue heron. The blue heron is specially designed to live in water and very close to water because of those long legs. All right, the Great Salt Lake is a unique wetland because of the salty water. The lake is one of the saltiest bodies of water in the world, and it can be up to 8 times saltier than the ocean. Only a few animals are able to live in the Great Salt Lake because of the salty water. 2 of those animals that are able to live in the Great Salt Lake are brine shrimp and brine flies. You probably have seen brine flies. They live near the edges of the water, and they don't bite, they don't hurt anyone, but they are just annoying because they can be in big swarms on the edge of the water, which is why most people don't go to the Great Salt Lake, is because of those brine flies. They're just kind of in your way. You have to go through them to get to the water. Brine shrimp hatch from tiny eggs which float on the water, and they are tiny, even microscopic size. They're very small. This is a microscopic image of a brine shrimp. Brine shrimp are very small, like I said, and they can live in the water, and they are invertebrates. An invertebrate is an animal with no backbone, and there's many other animals that are invertebrates, but a brine shrimp is one of them. All right. As you can see in this map, this is a picture of a map of the Great Salt Lake, and we live down here just south of the lake. But everywhere around the lake, where fresh water is coming into the lake, there are wetlands. So up here there's a big river called the Bear River, and it empties into the Great Salt Lake. And all around that is a big, massive wetland area. So animals live in those wetlands that not necessarily live in the salty water, but they can live in a wetland close to the Great Salt Lake with fresh water. All right. Another reason the Great Salt Lake wetlands are special is because a lot of birds migrate to them, and they do that in order to survive because they can't survive where they are. In the warmer months of the year, these birds come and live near the Great Salt Lake. They love to eat the brine shrimp and the brine flies while they are there at the wetlands near the Great Salt Lake. And here's another picture of some birds migrating. When an animal migrates, it means it moves for survival. So they only move because they need to survive. For example, if they can't survive the cold winter months here, they might migrate south and go somewhere warm, and vice versa. Some other birds, like bald eagles, also stop near the Great Salt Lake on their way to do their migration every year. They stop for a little bit and then they continue on their way to where they're actually heading. Alright, so what are some important things about wetlands that we need to know? Well, first of all, a wetland is an area that is saturated with water seasonally or permanently. Wetlands provide animal protection with their big tall plants like the cattails here or the bulrush. Wetlands help control flooding because they soak up extra water. They clean water forests using all the plants and their roots actually help clean water. Wetlands are rich in natural resources, and they are home for more living things than any other habitat. So more living things live in wetlands than any other habitat. Pretty incredible. All right, I'll give you a second to write that down. If you need to pause it, go ahead and pause it if you're writing this down right now. All right, next we're going to move on from wetlands to our next habitat. Next habitat we're going to talk about is forests. And every summer, people in Utah look forward to camping and going out in the canyons and the forests in the canyons. A forest is a large area of land that's covered with trees. This is a map of all the forests in Utah. So there's several different ones, and some are bigger than others, but those are where all of our forests are in Utah. All right, and as I said before, a forest is a large area of land. Forests are large areas of land that are covered with trees. Go ahead and write that down. All right, as you're driving up the canyon, you might look out the window and see how beautiful it is. You might hear animals and hear the breeze blowing through the trees. On the shady slope of the mountain, you will see aspen trees, and this picture is of aspen trees. Aspen trees are deciduous. What are they, everyone? Yes, they are deciduous. That means they drop their leaves every year. Deciduous means they drop their leaves in the fall and grow new leaves in the spring. Often when that happens, they turn really beautiful colors in the fall before they drop their leaves. Aspen trees have white bark with a grayish black marks on them. Not only do birds use the aspens for nesting, but some animals also use it for food, like the beaver. On the mountain slope that faces south, you might see something else other than aspen trees. The hot rays of the sun warm the ground. This side of the mountain is drier with grasses, sagebrush, and juniper trees. Most of the trees in Utah are juniper trees. Junipers look like other plants are coniferous. If a tree or bush is coniferous, that means they are trees and shrubs that have needle-like or scaly leaves which stay green all year and sometimes have cones. So in the word it says C-O-N, just imagine that's an E, coniferous, but we say coniferous. Alright, and there's many different kinds of coniferous trees in Utah, but they stay green all year. They don't lose their needles or their leaves. They use less water than deciduous trees. And they are beautiful year-round. This is a close-up picture of a juniper tree. So sometimes it's how it says trees and shrubs that have needle-like or scaly leaves. That's what they're talking about. If you look very closely, they are scaly. So it's not just one piece, it's like little scales, kind of like a fish. You can see those little scales on their needles. All right, other animals that live in forests include the porcupine. The porcupine eats the leaves and branches of the quaking aspen. It also eats the bark of trees to survive the winter months. It, on average, weighs about 20 pounds and is also excellent at climbing. Porcupine's body is covered with quills that are weapons against coyotes, bobcats, and other predators. When a porcupine becomes frightened, it shakes its body. Loose quills come out and stick to the attacker's skin. That does not sound pleasant. All right, other forest animals include mule deer. Mule deer live on the slopes of mountains and eat plants such as aspens, junipers, and sagebrush. They can be hard to spot when they're standing still among trees. Although mule deer prefer to stay in higher elevations during the winter, they will migrate to lower elevations near the valley, and that's one way that they adapt. Another animal that lives in the forest is a squirrel. Squirrels are fun to watch, and they store food that can last throughout the winter for them. That's how they adapt. Another coniferous tree in Utah is the ponderosa pine. The ponderosa pine is one of the most common trees of the Rocky Mountains, and it has adapted to cold, dry climates. As you go further up the mountain, you would see the trees are tall and narrow. In the winter, the snow just glides off of the branches without breaking them. The trees grow close together so that they can protect each other from the wind. Pine cones and pine needles are scattered on the ground under the huge trees. The air smells cool and mist. Cool and moist. Sorry. All right, that is a close-up of a ponderosa pine tree. And another one. And another one. So they do grow very tall. They're very skinny and tall as they grow. All right, what are some important things about forests that you need to know? Forests help reduce gases put into the air from cars and factories. So they are reducing global warming. That's one reason why they are important. They give us large amounts of oxygen. So in return, they cut down from the hazardous gases, and then they also give us large amounts of oxygen. They help keep the water clean, and they also prevent soil erosion. If an entire forest gets cut down and it rains on that forest, there's no roots, there's no trees to stop the water from going directly onto the soil and washing it away and eroding it. So forests are really important to make sure that we don't have erosion, and erosion again would make all of our water dirty. The soil would go into the water. So it keeps our water clean by doing that. All right. Over the years, forests have been cut down for lumber, golf courses, shopping malls, and other things. People have learned that when trees disappear, so does everything that depends on them, the tiny insects and the large animals. However, with careful planning, we can protect forests so we can continue to enjoy this beautiful and peaceful habitat. All right, next, this will be part 2, so you will take the quiz that goes along with this video, and hopefully you are taking notes as well and writing things down, because remember, you'll be able to use any of those on the final test and all the quizzes too. All right, thanks and have a great day.